Hello, George Romanic here. Welcome to Fundamentals of Weather and Climate playlist. In today's video we are going to talk about using solar energy to naturally warm a house and therefore reducing electricity bills for heating. To discuss this topic we are going to consider a surface in mid-latitudes and let's say in the northern hemisphere. So here is the surface and here is idealized house. We know that the sun is rising in the east, setting in the west, and therefore most of the day it will appear to be over south. So if this is south, then the sun will appear to be here, and particularly at local noon time, the sun will be over south in the highest position in the sky. And we will have sun rays impinging on this house as so. So before we go into the house, it is clear that if you want to smartly arrange vegetation in your backyard, then vegetation that requires a lot of solar energy should be on the south side of your backyard, because the north side will be in the shadows, as you can see. The house will create shadow, so this will be wetter and muddier region than the south part of your backyard. The size of this shadow clearly depends on the height of your house. The taller the house, the bigger the shadow. But it will also depend on the latitude of your home. The higher the latitude, the lower the sun will appear in the sky, and therefore again the bigger the shadow that will be cast by this house. Now if we go into this house, how do we design it smartly whenever possible to use natural sunlight for heating? Well, because as I just said, the sun is the highest in the sky over south. We want largest windows on this house to point towards the south, because we want this solar energy to penetrate as deep as possible into the house and naturally warm this interior. That will minimize your heating costs. Now, some other rooms like kitchen that are used early in the morning should face east, because that's the first room you want to be naturally warmed, and because the sun is rising in the east, that will be, namely towards camera, that would be the first room to warm up, and that's usually the kitchen, ideally, because that's where we go first to prepare breakfast, coffee, whatnot, before we go to work. Now, rooms with smaller windows should face west into the whiteboard, and that's because sun is setting in the west. And by that time, the house will be warm by acquiring a lot of solar radiation when the sun was over south, and that's also afternoon, the warmest part of the day. So there is no need to have big windows to acquire even more solar energy. And usually those are bedrooms that are facing towards west with small windows. So this is a short lecture on how to use naturally solar energy to minimize heating costs and to design house in smart way whenever that is possible. I understand it is not always possible to follow these guidelines. Until next video, goodbye.